is about something very, very beautiful, which is about nature. And I can see many nature lovers in the audience. And also citizen science is something we are going to talk about. I'm in the stage with two wonderful adventurers which know this place for different reasons. So I will learn more about it, and I will also introduce myself. But first, I would like to start with sort of a question: what nature means to you? And I will start with Marjoleine, and I know you both, but I know the audience don't know you. So my question is first, what nature means to you, and sort of if you could introduce yourself as well.
At the same time. Okay, yeah. I'll try. So nature is, to me, it's a kind of evolving thing. I think we used to think nature was something that is untouched by human beings. And I think that idea doesn't exist anymore. So in my feeling, nature, in the way we thought nature was, doesn't exist. And then nature to me is relaxation.
Relaxation?
Yeah. But that's also because I work here in the University.
Yeah.
Should I introduce myself?
Go for it.
Yeah. So I'm Marjoleine van der Meij. I'm assistant professor in Athena Institute. And I work here in the Zuidas. So whenever I can, I do a little walk in the forest. And I really enjoy being here. So that's my other part of nature experience.
Super, you actually brought us closer to the second speaker, which is why we're here, and you know this place very much, as we learned when we talked before the podcast. Could you please introduce yourself and also tell why you know this place, and what is this place? What is the name of the place we are sitting actually?
Well, the name is the Amsterdam Forest, in Dutch Amsterdamse Bos. Well, I am Sasja, and I'm here the ecologist, the forest ecologist. And I like the question you ask, what is nature and what does nature mean to you? Because I think you can answer this question in many ways. It's almost philosophical. What is nature and what is culture? And is culture actually not part of nature? And are we human beings? We made this culture, but we're also part of nature. So if you really want to go deep in this question, you can find so many answers in what is nature. And I think that's nice to talk and think about.
Yeah, great.
I look forward for this discussion with you both. And if I also may say, I'm Baiba, and I'm also working in the same institute as Marjoleine. And nature to me is actually a memory of a childhood memory, which is when my parents, which were beekeepers, bringing me to the beehives. And yeah, that is my first memory when you say, what's nature to me? So that's something. But actually, we are also here to talk about citizen science. And as a researcher in this field, to me, I mean, there is no world definition yet, but there is a understanding, a common understanding, that is something to do with public engagement in research. Public meaning not necessarily people affiliated in a university, but anyone being part of that research adventure. And I heard that there are ways here also happening when people are observing nature. You mentioned something about wild bird observations or people counting birds. Is that happening here as well?
Yeah, so it's broedvogel monitoring, like bird breeding monitoring, and we have volunteers for this, but it's quite an investment, because they really have to come lots of times, and they have like one plot, and then they have to come very early before sunrise and even in the night, and then during the season. So, and they're just doing this voluntary, so we are very happy that they do this, because eventually all this data is also giving us like indicators, how's the forest doing, do we see different trends, are there different birds coming, maybe we lose birds, and then you can make policy if you want with this data.
You actually brought something very particular. This is the forest area, and I'm not sure if everyone is aware. How big is this area?
It's very big. It's like 1,000 acres. And a soccer field is half an acre, right?
I think so. Yeah.
So that is 2,000 soccer fields. That's quite big, right?
That's unbelievable. Yeah.
For so close to a city, I think it's
Yeah.
quite special. Yeah.
Yeah, but also when the forest started, the city was more far away, and Amstelveen was not that big back then, and also the airport wasn't that big. So it's becoming more and more important because all this urbanization. So it's really a hotspot for animals like birds, but also the plants, but also for people to find peace and reconnect with nature. And I think that's what you are also. We discussed this before. Like with citizen science, you also want to have people
be aware.
Yeah.
Be curious.
Yeah. I like this because when we were talking about citizen science, I was thinking, but what's the purpose? Because I think, okay, what do we do with the data? I first want to have the goal, and then you told me, but it's also good to let people be enthusiastic about nature.
Explore.
Can I ask a question? So how is this data then collected, and how do you process it?
The data, you have SOFON.
Oh, okay.
This is the National Bird Institute of the Netherlands, and they have this app, and then the data is collected in an app, and very smart people, they have made a program, so then automatically the data is processed.
Yeah. Okay, clear.
The reason I also, when you mentioned about curiosity, there's something we talked, Marjoleine, about museums as a way of reconnecting with nature, possibly as well. Could you bring an example of how citizen science appears in a sort of infrastructure, which is museum?
So I do know of an example which is about oeverplanten, so the plants that live in the banks, like close to the waterfront. And Naturalis, the museum in Leiden, so the Biodiversity Center as well, they are connected to a citizen science project which is about the plants in the banks, so the oeverplanten. And they also ask citizens to make pictures of these plants, and then I think there's an artificial intelligence that is analyzing the plants. And then they also monitor how well are we doing in terms of nature zones, buffer zones, between the land and the water. So that's a citizen science project that I am aware of, and I think by connecting as a science museum, by connecting to such initiatives, I think you have the potential to even broaden the whole scope of the project, because you have a bigger range, a bigger group of people that you can engage, maybe also a bit more diverse than only researchers could reach, so to say. So I think that is one of the possible roles of science museums in his whole picture, but there are probably more roles to be thought about.
Yeah, recently there is this initiative of libraries as being one of the hotspots when it comes to citizen science. So it's maybe it's also of interest for the podcast listeners is the European Citizen Science Association, which also has several initiatives on this subject. But you mentioned digital tools, and one tool that also, or sort of initiative I would like to pinpoint is Spotteron, actually, which are building several apps, and one of the apps for monitoring biodiversity is Nature Spot. So and I actually am a big user of it, and you can see how the community is helping to identify the plant species, the animal species, and you can see the pictures, and it's such a safe, secure space where people are actually monitoring the environment. So Nature Spot.
I don't know it. It's an app?
Yeah, it's an app. It's a free app. It's also, and it's created by the Spotteron team. It's based in Austria, and they have several apps for nature observation. But one I would like to pinpoint is Nature Spot. So it's a free tool, and lots of cooperations taking place with this app, and maybe something to explore. Also, maybe to explore in relation to monitoring the forest, making a community.
Is it to engage people in nature and to let with the app learn them about nature?
Yeah, funny enough, when you think about a tool like phone, you think, well, you always look at the phone. But actually, by this connection with making a picture, with the upload in the app, you get the information what the community says about the plant or the animal, and also there is a real data connection with the Wikipedia, and you can read up on it. And so it's an amazing tool, I think, for people to be adventurous and sort of explore what is in the surrounding, what is here around. One example which I could imagine right ahead.
I know this app waarneming.nl. I don't know if you know this.
Is it related to BioBlitzes? I think I connect with BioBlitzes, but
I don't know, but it sounds the same as this app you mentioned, because you just make a picture and then you see which plant or animal it is, and you can learn about the animal or the plant. It sounds a bit the same.
Yeah, there's several sort of tools like this, but I'm sort of big fan of this particular one because there is this live community engagement. So it's a sort of a citizen scientist in one platform. So that's something as an example. But I was mentioning BioBlitz actually, and that is an example which could be something to explore, maybe also here in the forest, when people in a certain time and space are joining together and monitoring everything. And it's a sort of an initiative which is called BioBlitzes. Something to maybe explore. I'm not sure if we are aware of that, but there is also a city nature challenge when these types of initiatives happening. Yes. I can also see there will be questions from the audience, which is amazing.
It's really nice because also to make people enthusiastic about nature, I think this is always a good idea. And then with a big group. And I really like, because I'm always thinking about the goal, but we already said it, but maybe sometimes I miss that the goal can also be just enjoy nature. And I think that's where the Amsterdam forest is also for.
Exactly. The curiosity, and when you build the curiosity, you actually create a responsibility, or actually co-creates that responsibility back in terms of your surrounding.
Yeah.
And we have a question from the audience.
Yeah, well, it's more like a remark. Is it working? About the BioBlitz. We are going to do a BioBlitz here in the forest in September because we celebrate our 90-year existence. And we're going to do a big BioBlitz with all citizens around us. And really, we would really like to have scientists and people from the university as well. So join us in the BioBlitz in September. We're going to do 1,000 species in the Amsterdamse Bos.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a cool achievement of sort of having it on September. So Vrije University and the others who are around. September, and I forgot the day, September
26th or 25th and 26th, we celebrate the birthday.
Yeah.
And I know you're also in this bio bits, so we really have to have another meeting and see what we can do about bringing all these people here and going for the 10,000 species. No, 10,000. So
I can see there's a competition
of people.
That's not too bad, and that's not too ambitious. I think that's a reachable goal, because even if we sit around, there is a thing called plant blindness, when we don't necessarily notice things around, but I can already see the audience members are sitting surrounded by several plant species around. So,
and do they know which species they are?
That's why we are a community.
But this is really nice. I also made a video about plant blindness, like recently for the Amsterdam Forest Instagram, because this phenomena is that if you don't see the different species, you just see green and you maybe enjoy it, but you could enjoy it more if you see all the diversity in those plants and the beauty in all these different varieties. So I think also this citizen science is also, how do you say, for people like to explore life more and see all this beauty.
Yeah, I like how we touch upon it. Marjoleine?
Yeah, just when I'm thinking about citizen science and the conversations that are going on in academia about citizen science, there's like a big discussion, you could say, about how do we approach citizen science. So I was also wondering, because what I see and what I read in different papers, if I read literature, that some of the critiques, so that's one point, is that should we call it citizen science in terms of is it if you engage citizens in doing scientific research, is it then a kind of subordinate or lower type of science, or maybe even a better type of science because you have bigger access to particular forms of data that you would not be able to gather when you only do it with researchers that are formally embedded in institutions? So that's one of the interesting critiques that you often see in different spaces. And one of the other things that I stumble upon is citizen science merely for citizens collecting data, or do they also have the agency to break open the research process,
or shake it, like
to
we were
scrutinize
talking?
it, to shake it? Yeah. So I'm curious what your thoughts on this, because I actually definitely don't have the answer yet, but I do see all these conversations going on in different spaces about it.
I think the first one, if it's less or better, I don't think that's the right question to ask, because it's just different.
Yeah.
Like a scientist in the university maybe is doing research about a very particular part of something, and that's nice. And he has all, or she has all this knowledge. But with the citizen science, it's just something completely different. So I don't think we have to compare these things, and it can
Complement.
Yeah. And then the second question was about?
It was about whether if you have citizens engaging in the projects. Let me think about it. What was I saying? If they have the agency, the possibility to change, to scrutinize, to shake the scientific system. So sometimes even researchers have their blind spots, and then you need different perspectives to open up to those blind spots. And sometimes citizens can bring in different perspectives that are also really valuable. I'm also thinking about farmers, for example, who have a lot of experience in how to deal with their land and how to restore biodiversity. Just to give an example, imagine that these different perspectives are actually also needed in research. Can citizen science also be a kind of model or a frame or a way to open up research and to scrutinize that system, like the old traditional forms of knowledge development?
Yeah, I mean, I studied this phenomenon and talked a lot with colleagues about it. I think, as you mentioned yourself, there's these different levels of the engagement. And of course, I think if we are open as a researcher to listen to a certain question, it can be, for example, especially today, there's so much heat. And if people would say, why don't we have more trees? This question is brought to us as researchers, and we are able to do something about it, or together create more questions towards making a difference, let's say. So I think there is a certain space for that, and there is even platforms like science shops, which can build these spaces of people openly coming with the questions, and we being outside as well more, talking with the people, like talking today, and learning from each other. So I think what is brilliant about engaging with people is the shared curiosity, what's happening around. And I think if there is this drive of understanding, then we can learn and make a difference. That would be something.
Yeah, I think I agree. And it also depends about the research. Like, just as I said before, like if you have very specific research, then you need people who are really in this topic. But maybe for other research, it's really nice to have more people think, and maybe with different backgrounds. So I think, it can be something extra
Valuable.
Yeah.
I have we had 10 minutes, and then we open for the questions more. But the thing is, what I wanted to ask actually to you was about, you've been walking here around, you're one of the forest rangers, one of the protectors of this area, and so I'm wondering about what sort of new things you have learned about the forest, or what the forest has taught you.
I don't know if I can answer that question just like now. I think, just being in an area for quite a while, you first have a vision about stuff, but when you get to know the place better, also this can change. So I think it's good to be longer in a place and to really connect with this place. So this is also about like the people who are doing the bird monitoring, it's really, really valuable if they are long term, right? Because they see the birds and like over time things change and also you change. So you can see like the systems behind it. So yeah, I think you change when you stay longer.
And you said something about a childhood history here.
Yeah.
When you look at it now, has it changed? Has the forest changed?
I think I changed more. But so when I grew up, I was about 10 years when I first got around in the forest because I played field hockey in one of the clubs here. But the funny thing is that when we were young, female young kids, they used to say to us, don't cycle there when it's dark, so it's a dangerous place, blah, blah, blah. But when I got older, I started to get to know the forest better. I knew all the angles, all the corners, all the spaces. And I kind of started to decrease my own fear that was being imposed on me because I just got to know the forest better and I trusted it more. And I knew it was also just a safe space. I mean, nothing would happen there, right? So that was something that I started to realize when I was engaging more with the forest and got to know it better.
I love how you say it, engaged with the forest, and forest sort of also, giving certain, I don't want to say lessons, but like you in the dark, there's so much happening. In the early mornings when you go through the forest, and all this, and the reason why I said about the change is that through all these observations, years by years or days by days, these are data, right? And this is like local ecological knowledge, which again, in some time, you will say, oh, like the maps on the table here, we can see how the forest has changed, and I think these memories are part of the data. So that's quite remarkable. So I hope you write a diary about it, how the forest has changed.
Yeah, and also I was born and raised in Amsterdam, and the story that you also hear about the forest is that it was set up by people who were like forced to build the forest. I think it was just after World War time, or maybe during, I'm not sure. So there was also this atmosphere that the forest is a place where people were forced to create the forest. But then that connotation also disappears a bit with time, I think, because the forest is also now recreating itself, so to say, with of course some modulations by humans, I suppose. But that's another interesting change I kind of experience, I think.
Thank you. I'm looking at the audience and thinking if there were questions coming from the audience. There is a question. I love it. 2 questions. Beautiful.
Well, I was wondering, perhaps for Sasja from the forest, isn't it a challenge to combine the history of the forest with current day's views on biodiversity and nature preservation? For instance, the machines we use in the forest, isn't that a bit a challenge with the current day ambitions?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, of course, because also the way we look at nature and how we looked at nature back then, but also about the landscape was different than how we look about it now. And we're making this new vision. So all these new perspectives about how you can maintain the forest, there are different perspectives and how you can do it. It also depends about the vision. And our vision is really to contribute biodiversity, climate, well-being and health. So this all is coming together in this vision, and maybe we have to make some changes, yes, to make it more biodiverse.
Thank you for the question. And there was a second question. Is it still there? Yeah. And then a third question as well.
Yeah, thank you for this discussion. I attended a session 2 days ago. It was about this eBird platform. I never heard of that before, but there was some discussion about what I interpret as like the dark side of citizen science. That is a bit of commodification of nature, and also this gamification of nature. That okay, if I see the bird, I get likes. So really driving people to the right things, maybe by the wrong ways, if I can say. So just want to invite you to reflect.
Thank you. Yeah.
Baiba.
Yeah, I definitely would like to comment. I mean, there are different age groups of engagement of citizen scientists, and I'm not particularly sure about the likes or this emotion, but that's depends on which type of community. I do know eBirds as well, but I can talk about the digital platforms I use, like the one I mentioned of Nature Spots. And there as well, there is this opportunity to push a bottom of a heart, sort of expressing an emotion, saying, well, this is an amazing observation, amazing spot. And I think it's how you view these digital platforms. And for example, this particular one I trust very much. I trust the community. And there is a sense of curiosity. But I do know what you mean by exploiting or exploitation on this quick data. But then, of course, it's up to the ones initiating. So I guess it's about questioning why are we building these engagement mechanisms. And then again, I'm being lucky to be involved in projects which are heartwarmed of why we are doing it. And like the plant blindness thing, the one which is Stepplaatjen, which is in Leiden, where the people are observing the plants on the ground, and the same what I mentioned about the nature spots, where the community is actually supporting each other, teaching each other, and sharing narratives about the plants or animals being spotted. But definitely there is a danger of exploiting if there is no feedback mechanism or sort of the understanding why are we doing it. But gamification elements, I cannot comment as I'm not necessarily in the field, but I think that there are these cases where actually this is just as a way of action, as a way of let's do things together and just acknowledgement. Like we say hi, for example, when we pass by, and especially in Netherlands, it is very acknowledging each other, expressing gratitude. I have seen it, and I think it's beautiful. So it's also can be viewed in a positive light. I don't know if the other members would like to comment.
It just makes me think, your question makes me think of this weekend. I was in the Amstel Park, which is close by, and there were lots of people walking around there, just looking at their phones. And we asked them, what are you doing here? And they were playing Pokemon Go, right? So we asked them, what is the purpose of this? And they said, well, we were just playing the game, and we were on our way already for 7 hours today. Yesterday we were on our way for 7 hours as well. And I thought, oh my gosh, so you walk around all the time in nature, but you look at your phone all the time. You have your big recharger with you. So it's kind of makes me think of this, but maybe that's not what you're referring to.
No, I think that's a very nice point, because some people also question if that's also kind of you detached from nature because you are engaging with nature through the screen of your phone. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So it kind of has the opposite effect.
Yeah. Well, to me, it also brings up a question. I mean, we do have a lot of interesting tools and platforms also to do citizen science. And it's something that we think as well, do we still do also citizen science without those kind of platforms, like live, face-to-face, without any kind of tools? I'm maybe the butterfly counting? No, it's also with tools, right?
No, well, you recognize the butterfly, but you don't write it down with a pencil, but you put it in an app.
Yeah, exactly. So mostly it's appified.
Yeah, but it's also a data storage, and then again, on which platforms you're doing and how the privacy is taken care. And then when you say about, like the plant blindness activity, the researchers need to understand and know the data. But then there are elements where, on citizen science is about bringing a question. So like Science Shop, when a person is having a question and coming to a researcher, it is a type, it's not a data gathering, but it's a different type of data. And then you talk live to live. So there are cases where you don't necessarily need to send something through a platform. Mm-hmm. But I do want to emphasize this, what audience member was saying about detaching. Actually, I was at some point quite skeptical on saying, people doing things through the apps. But then I realized how the community can teach each other so much, and that made me inspired of learning how people identify, how people make even photos of butterfly. Try making a photo of butterfly in this heat. Impossible. And so these are actually the key elements I learned from the people in that platform. And actually I start to notice a lot more because I was so keen to share. And for example, phenology is something what people are sharing a lot on these spots and saying how a certain animal or just recently one of the citizen scientists in the Nature Spots app shared the birds of hatching until they fly away. And the whole community was like, we are so amazed that all the birds survive and you learn about the survival of the blackbirds. And again, in 5 years' time, I was skeptical, but at the moment, I'm a great fan of this engagement tool because there is a certain data privacy taken in consideration. There's no hate speech. It's just a way of engagement, another way.
Yeah, but I think it's good that you say another way because it also really depends on the person because some people really like to be in the platform but I think you have so many different kinds of people. So also to the person in the audience, I think it also depends. Like some people really still like to walk around just by themselves or maybe with friends and then explore the nature and they don't use the citizen science app, and that's also very okay.
Absolutely.
And also to comment, I think you said something about that I'm not really in the topic of citizen science and all these platforms, but you said like that there's a game thing behind it. But when I think about it, the idea that people with a game go into nature and are willing to learn about it, I think that's nice. And that they're not just playing Pokemon Go, but really observing plants and butterflies and dragonflies, and that they want to do that. And then these people will tell that at their family, at their friends, so maybe, yeah, it's positive.
To add on this, there was a recent study, actually, I think from, I was introduced that by a botanic garden director from Iceland, but they showed me a study which was about that the children knew more different types of sponsors or different types of brands and not so many plants. And there is this trend of what we know and what we consider a value of knowledge, and citizen science is about co-creating that knowledge. I can see the time is running, so I'm wondering if there is something you would both want to add, and I'm just looking at the people around.
I want to add something.
Go ahead.
I know you do a lot of research in citizen science, and I think you also do a lot of research in citizen science. So as the Amsterdam Forest, we really want to invite you to this Amsterdam Forest, let it be a playground to engage people in nature, and even if it's just to enthusiastic people about nature.
Amazing. And we definitely I'm already having an idea of good. Well, first of all, there was a BioBlitz, but then there could be so much done with also using apps, a Nature Spot app, and the phenology could be something as well. And just unbelievable. There's so many ideas because we are so lucky. There is water ecosystem, there is forest, there is a bit of pitch patches of urban environment, lots to be explored.
Yeah, and it's very, very big, and it's very, very beautiful, and lots to discover. So let's make ideas. Yes.
On this adventurous spirit, we will close the podcast, and I thank my speakers. And let's go and explore the forest.
Yay!